This build is insanely good for soloing the new dungeon, especially because Bungie has brought us some new artifact mods that are actually really sick with Arc Hunter. We have Electric Armor, which is stay amplified longer while your subclass is equipped, while your Arc subclass is equipped. And then we have Thunderous Retort, grants bonus Arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified. And obviously we will be amplified when popping that super, so it'll do a bunch more damage, lasts until the end of super activation. And we have Amped Up, which is gain damage resistance while amplified. All of this just creates such a strong build on top of the already insanely powerful Assassin's Cal build that we've been using for a long time now. In today's video, I'll be breaking down exactly what I was using in the gameplay behind me here. First up, we've got the Gathering Storm Super. This one is really strong, and the nice part is once you've thrown it, then you can focus on doing as much weapon damage as you possibly can. I was using Tractor and Shotgun. I found that I didn't quite get as much damage as I wanted, so I might actually use something more like Gjallarhorn. You don't need the Tractor Cannon to debuff to one-hit kill any of the targets. The only reason why I chose to use Tractor was to debuff boss. It might very well be the strongest damage output strat, but I'm pretty under-leveled this season, especially because we know now that the dungeon is meant to be an 1831 activity if you want to be at the proper level, and I'm only a measly level 1815 when you watch the gameplay behind me here, so I'm not doing nearly as much boss damage as I would have hoped. So you can mix up the weapons if you want, but the subclass still remains the same. It's still extremely strong. The dodge we're using, of course, you have to use Gambler's Dodge, so that way every time you dodge, you get your melee back. This creates the perfect gamed loop, so that way you can infinitely melee, infinitely dodge, and you'll chain lightning from every single melee punch. It's an entirely melee-centric build. We're using triple jump for PvE, that's standard, and then combination blow is the must-use melee if you're going to use this class. This obviously stacks up to 3 times, so it's hard to get started at the start. You'll notice that when I punch like the first Acolyte, it takes 2 punches just to kill them, and you'll notice that I'm specifically not shotgunning them because the shotgun would just one-hit kill them, so I have to go through the tedious effort of punching them twice. However, when I do come through the water to get into the next damage rotation, I notice that there's a Thrall up there, so I make sure to punch the Thrall that time around because I know that they're a one-hit kill with no combination blows, and then I get combination blow ×1, ×2 on the second Thrall, and then once I have ×2, I can one-punch the Acolytes again, which is really nice, and then once I have ×3, I can 1-2 punch shotgun Knights, and so that's the rotation that I'm doing. I can actually, with combination blow ×3, I can actually use the 1-2 punch shotgun and shotgun melee one-hit kill the Ogre, in fact, which is pretty cool, and all of the Wizards. So that strong combination blow stacks really, really high. And for the grenade, of course, we're going with Pulse Grenade. It's going to be the strongest and best option in PvE. For the aspects, we're going with Lethal Current, and we're going with Flow State. For the fragments, we got Spark of Resistance. Of course, when we're surrounded by combatants, which we are the entire time, we just get increased damage resistance, and we get more strength, which is not too bad, but really won't matter much because you're going to get your melee back every time you dodge. We got Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades will jolt targets, which is just really nice and for chaining and clearing mobs of ads. I didn't throw my grenade, honestly, enough in this gameplay, but if I did, you clear out the ads just as efficiently. I just wanted to focus on how strong that melee was, and I kind of just pinpoint focused on the majors like the Knights and the Ogres and the Wizards and didn't really worry about the ads too much. I kind of let the chain lightning take care of the ads because I could sit there and just run around and punch them infinitely. They just keep respawning. Instead, I kind of just run past them, especially because I have infinite invisibility due to Assassin's Cal. The next part is Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, so for whatever reason anything punches me, like the boss for example, who frequently comes up punches you, you can get this to proc. Not to mention it gives you +10 resilience. You obviously need 100 resilience when you're doing challenging stuff like this, so this one actually synergizes really well with this build. And the last one is Spark of Magnitude, and this one just increases the duration of my pulse grenades, so that way when I throw it down, it will do more damage to the boss or to any sort of ads that I'm trying to clear. And that completes the subclass build for this one. The weapon I was using, of course, was a Wastelander, and I just had 1-2 punch on it. You could use any shotgun that has 1-2 punch. They all work equally the same. I had Tractor Cannon on just to debuff. I rarely needed to use this though. However, you will, if you're going to do boss damage with the 1-2 punch melee, you will need to repeatedly obviously tractor them and then reproc your melee by dodging near an enemy and then getting kills. So it's kind of unfortunate to have to loop that into your damage cycle when trying to damage a boss, shooting the boss and then also killing an ad nearby and then coming back and shooting the boss again. But when done right, it's actually really effective and can actually clear the boss pretty fast. And even if it doesn't clear the boss extremely fast, is that it just has complete survivability. Like you're just not going to die when you're using this build in this encounter. Moving on to all of the armor mods. Of course, we have Assassin's Cal as the exotic of choice. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. That is just so nice and just so powerful. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health shields restored. Now, I'm not really using the finishers in this, but you could. And the final blows against more powerful targets is definitely happening frequently as I punch those majors, wizards, ogres, everything. For the mods, I'm using Dynamo, reduce super cooldown when using your class ability near targets. Obviously, we're going to be dodging next to targets all the time, so this is going to proc so frequently and be so well utilized. This is easily an S tier mod for this build. And then we'll have Hands On, which is gain bonus super energy on melee kills. I could also use Ashes to Assets if I threw more grenades. However, I was a little too melee happy, so I just went with double hands-on, but I highly recommend maybe just rotate Ashes to Assets in for the overall well-balanced build on the helmet mods. For the gauntlets, we're gonna go, of course, with heavy-handed because we're gonna be punching so many things and the punches are gonna kill everything. Majors doesn't matter what it does. What it is that you're punching, they're gonna die from the punches. So we're gonna be using heavy-handed, and then we're gonna rock impact induction ×2. And the reason why is because causing damage with your melee gives you grenade cooldown, and that's really nice. We don't need focusing strike, which gives us class ability energy. We're gonna get that back from combination blow. Combination blow is defeating targets with this ability also fully refills your class ability energy and restores a small amount of health. So because we have combination blow on, we do not need to use anything other than double impact induction pair with heavy-handed. However, if you wanted to rotate something else here and here, like if you wanted to load a weapon faster, you could easily rock that into there. Or maybe even grenade kickstart if you wanted to just absolutely spam the crap out of grenades all the time. That could actually be a lot of fun to rotate in there. But that's the gauntlet mods that we're going through. For the chest piece, I highly recommend have melee damage resistance on. This is due to proximity, how close enemies are to you. The entire time you're getting in the face of every enemy that you're fighting, trying to punch them. So melee damage resistance is an absolute must. Always have this on for this build. For the other two, you can just pick whichever enemy types are shooting you the most. Onto the boots, I highly recommend to have recuperation, although it's not necessary at all because you are getting your health regenerated back from the melee kills. Recuperation is just nice every now and again if you are getting shot or if you mess up your loop, your rotation. There can be an orb there, it can save your life, so I just recommend using recuperation. For the other two mods, I just ended up actually using holsters, but you could just use surges to actually match the weapons that you're shooting. Like for example, I had an arc slug shotgun that I would probably rotate in there, or if I was shooting a G-horn, I would probably rotate in some solar. For the most part, I'll just use surges, but because I wanted to just run around and not have to worry about reloading my weapons, I just like putting on holsters. It kind of just gives auto loading to the weapons that don't have auto loading, which is why I like that so much. And then for the class item, of course, we're gonna be using Reaper because every time we dodge, we're gonna make another orb. So there's just gonna be orbs everywhere, which is gonna be really nice for recuperation or any other surge mods that we have on. And then we'll also put on Powerful Attraction because it's the new mod and it collects those orbs for us. And we're already dodging around. So we'll just pick them up within a radius. This works perfect synergy with this build. And it's a new mod that just got introduced, so it's kind of fun to use. And then lastly, we'll just have Bomb Ron, so that way we can get our grenades back as fast as possible. When you actually use all of the abilities in this build, you're constantly punching things, constantly throwing grenades. You're gonna get your super energy back really fast as well. It's actually a really, really cool ability spam build. Probably the most fun one that I like to use in challenging content. As far as stats go, of course, go with 100 resilience, and then we're gonna go with 100 discipline. Everything after that point doesn't really matter too much. I probably would lean into as much intellect as I possibly can. I ended up having pretty high strength and high mobility for this one, but honestly, the stats really don't matter that much because you're gonna have the gameplay loop due to all your mods and all of your subclass perks. But that's the best build I would say for soloing this dungeon encounter. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, smash the like button. See you in the next one. Later.